5 months later.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just gonna come out and say it. This movie is a fucking disappointment. And I don't even care about the 30-second rule. I just have to be honest. This is a disappointment of a movie. Words?
I think the fact that it ended, that this debacle will finally end today, after we finally watched the movie that we've all been waiting so patiently for. What a disappointment. What a disappointment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, I can imagine many of you are probably curious. What is this movie like? How bad is Ezra Miller? Is it gonna bomb at the box office? Well, we can answer some of those questions. The financial stuff we can't talk about yet. However, I will say this much. This movie, or let me say that, let's start with this much. Our expectations when we walked into the movie theater. Words, let's start with you. What were your expectations going into this movie?
Well, I knew the movie was not gonna be that great, but you know, I still was. When Tom Cruise says that he loved the movie, you know, I thought maybe there's a chance it actually is good. That's so I guess I just sat down. I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm not watching the product and getting excited for the next product. I'm just here because I have to watch it for YouTube purposes.
So this goes without saying. Look, we all know what Ezra Miller has done. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to divorce those two. Ezra Miller in his acting ability and Ezra Miller as the garbage human being. We're going to separate that for 2 seconds and let's just focus on the movie. My thoughts are, or rather, my expectations going into this movie were this much. I was hoping for at least a decent, fun superhero movie that I could walk out of the theater of and say, I had fun. And for the most part, or well, let me say this much. For chunks of it, I can say that was met. That expectation was met. However, if you're going into this movie expecting a good superhero movie and the culmination of the DCEU or whatever you want to call this, well, it kind of lives up to that billing in a really crappy way. So, let's start with the big item, or the big thing, the elephant in the room. Ezra Miller. He was decent, and he actually had good moments, but he also had really bad moments.
Yes. Yeah. I think the first thing we could say, way too much comedy. It felt there was just too many moments where the comedic joking manner kind of just got really fucking cringe, and we were just sitting there like, holy shit, can they just take this shit seriously for like 2 seconds at least? Then
you had really super serious moments that you went, holy crap, this is actually, like, some of it was made me go, wow, they might have actually put a modicum of effort into some of these scenes with the way Ezra Miller's act, like, as I said, Ezra Miller had good acting moments, with himself,
Yeah.
So Ezra Miller, I think, had the kind of performance we kind of expected / didn't expect, which is he had his really cringe, moments as as Barry and as the Flash. But then he had really, really good moments showcasing, okay, if he had put this kind of effort in from the beginning, or this kind of character that he was playing at times, would have been really good. Now, some people may ask, are we going to talk about the story? Well, do we want to get, because that kind of leads into the spoiler stuff, and it's kind of...
I mean, I will talk about spoilers. I mean, but I don't think it matters. I just...
Okay,
if you want to go watch the movie, don't don't watch the rest of this video until you've watched it, but we absolutely are gonna actually probably spoil some shit.
Yeah, let's save a little bit of the more spoilery stuff towards the end. Let's just kind of go a little bit more general. So, as we said, this is the Flashpoint movie. This is the movie that the trailers very much alluded to it. You know, 2 Flashes, time travel, different multiverse stuff is involved. So it's everything you kind of thought the Flashpoint that storyline. There's a lot of the classic moments in there. It's centered around Barry trying to, you know, undo his mother's death, and then, you know, doesn't heed any of the warnings from like people around him who say this is a really bad idea. Messing with, you know, with space and time is a really bad idea, and you could destroy everything. But Barry Allen chooses not to listen, and that sets him off on the story that we get in the Flashpoint. And overall, the story was like, it had really good emotional moments. Go ahead, Warzy, you look like you wanted to say something.
No, I mean it had some really great emotional moments. There was a lot of great nostalgic moments, which obviously were kind of ruined by the trailers because you already knew Michael Keaton was in the movie. But like it was really great. It was amazing when it was at its highs, but it was so fucking bad when it was at its lows. And I guess that's my biggest problem with this movie.
Yeah, I can agree with that. For me, again, we've seen the story play out in comics, and then one of the more recent in animation, and then the first ever live action, I want to say, was the CW TV show, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was. Right? Yeah.
It was either the first to do it, or in live action, or the you know, first time we got to see a like decent budget. I shouldn't even say decent budget. That's a whole different conversation. So, maybe one day we'll talk about that. But
yeah.
So again, he goes back in time, and as the trailer points out, he meets himself from a different universe. So, and then we go on this adventure where Barry has to try and keep the Barry from that we're familiar with from the past couple DC movies, has to keep things from spiraling out of control and make sure everything still follows exactly how they did in his universe, or rather the timeline. So, as any movie involving you know, time travel and dealing with this kind of stuff, there's some questions, there's some things that kind of you want to know, and it does the whole classic thing of disproving, you know, what we already know of time travel and trying to put a different spin on it. If I remember correctly, Endgame even did this, where they all reference Back to the Future. That's like the classic thing to reference in every single one of these movies, it feels like.
It's like the most popular pop culture time travel thing. So
yeah, they even get it. They even have this is a little stupid conversation, but they even have like a giant like argument about, you know, who stars as Marty, and I'm just like, huh.
Well, I really liked. I don't think it's a massive spoiler, but I really liked how they had Eric Stoltz end up actually playing Marty McFly instead of getting fired for Michael J. Fox instead. But that was actually kind of funny to see.
So, and as you might imagine, as like I said, Barry has to keep things on track. As you can imagine, both Barrys get their powers, and so it leads to a whole bunch of decisions that have to be made. And as everybody knows, Kara is in this movie, Supergirl, and as well as Word said earlier, Michael Keaton's Batman is also in this movie, replacing Ben Affleck's Batman in that universe.
We also got another Batman, but we'll save that for a little later. Yeah,
that one's I still don't understand where that one came from. So,
you know, it was that comedic, having to add comedy in every thing, which again kind of ruined a lot of shit, but yeah.
Yeah, I can. Like I said, a lot of scenes could have been better if the comedy was dropped a little bit in favor of just being more serious and just taking the scene a little bit, with a bit of a heavier tone to it. Not like super duper like some of the earlier DC movies, but like a little bit, a little bit less. A couple of the jokes could have been dropped in favor of just letting the scene play out naturally instead of forcing it in there. So we get both Barry Allen's working with, Kara, and Michael Keaton's Batman against Zod, who, as you can imagine, because of the fact that this is a whole different universe, things play out differently. And so Superman isn't a thing, and Kara is the Superman, well, Supergirl in this case, of this universe. They have to fight Zod. However, then there's a dilemma that unravels that both Flash discovers and is alluded to by Michael Keaton's Batman. This kind of, fixed point, I should say. These events that can never be changed, no matter how much you go back and try and change them. And you kind of see that play out in the movie, and you have a moment where both Barrys kind of clash about this exact, their differing feelings on this matter. Because the Barry that we're used to and that we've seen for numerous movies kind of learned the lesson at the very end and kind of realized exactly what Ben Affleck's Batman was trying to tell him. And, and having that lesson, and Michael Keaton's Batman, and having that lesson finally sink in for him. While the other Barry, still new to power, still new to being a superhero, doesn't get that kind of... Again, we can't go into the spoilers yet, but it, it does come up. And, and so it does culminate in a really interesting moment at the very end that I was fine with. Like I said, overall, the story... Oh, wait, let me say the ending. Barry Allen, like I said, let's say this much. Things then get restored, kind of, at the very end. Things kind of go back to normal when Barry learns this lesson, and some events and some things happen that leads to Barry kind of being forced to kind of come to terms with everything and learning the lesson of don't fuck with time. Don't. You have to just accept the past and move on. Okay, that's generally that's most of the story without spoiling it. We're gonna then, any comments that you have, words or anything?
I mean, I'll say this: if you're going into this movie thinking it's the greatest thing ever, I would rethink those expectations. And if you've seen other versions of Flashpoint, you probably already know what's going to go down in this movie. So that's like the best way for me to put it into words.
Yeah. Here is the thing, but here's the real sore on the unfortunate subject of this movie. And you probably have seen clips of it on Twitter or floating around the internet and forums and Reddit. Well, Reddit's currently down at the moment, but is the CGI. Because my God, we need to have a conversation about that CGI.
I haven't seen CGI this bad since Black Panther. And it just looked like a fucking video game. It looked like a very early PS3 game where the graphics weren't at their best just yet for PlayStation 3 levels. It was some of the worst CGI I've seen. There are movies from like the early 2000s that still have better CGI than this movie, which is actually kind of ridiculous when you think about it.
Yeah, as I said this to Words while we were in the theater. I told him, how does Iron Man from 2008 look better than this? And Words gave me the exact, probably the reason, which is they actually built the damn suit.
They did have a real suit. There were actually practical effects, And I think, let's be honest, I mean, this is kind of an issue with all movies nowadays and all CGI. Like, they rely so heavily on the CGI and not making real suits. I'm actually kind of glad that they somewhat had the real suits in this movie.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really want to see cartoon characters walking around the entire time.
Now, let's be fair. Some people will make the argument, well, given that this is dealing with the Speed Force and the Flash and this kind of speeds that he's going at, some of the CGI was okay. It wasn't some of it. And I understand that argument where, you know, the Flash is going at some ridiculous speeds, like you can't really make that practical or any of this. And I go, sure. And there was one interesting, what's the word I'm looking for? Effect that they did with the time traveling aspect that I actually really liked. But it just looks so cartoony and really bad at times that I just went, oh my lord. What is this scene? Like when the first time it happened, I just was looking at the screen going, I like this. The idea, I just don't like the way this looks.
I mean, the CGI was bad almost from the beginning of the movie, which is not
great.
Like, you don't want to start off that way, right?
Yeah.
It was laughably bad. Like, I literally started dying laughing in the theater. Like, it was completely like nobody else was laughing, but it was just that bad to me. Which I kind of feel bad for probably fucking other people's experience of, but you know, like it's hard to take something seriously when it just looks so shitty.
Yeah, because I chuckled. I won't lie. I chuckled at some of the CGI because it just looks so hilariously bad. It made me question whether or not this movie needed more. I don't know if there was any. And the other argument is, could you have done any better with the CGI? I don't know. I don't work in that field. I'm not going to even pretend to have a clue as to could they have done any better. If somebody even has anything is even remotely familiar with that kind of stuff, could they have done better? And if you've seen the movie, could you have made those effects look better? Again. And so, like I said, that generally wraps up the CGI because it's so glaring, but at the same time, it is kind of a skin deep issue. But it's just one that, because of how much CGI there is in this movie, it really does, like, it pops out to you more than anything else.
Yeah. It's just like Black Panther. Like, when everyone watched Black Panther, I hate that I have to talk about that movie right now, but like, it's such a glaring bad part of it because it's such a major part of it that it like kind of takes you out of what you're supposed to be feeling from the movie. But I guess it is what it is, right?
Well, that's how it be sometimes. Now we've covered the CGI. Now we've covered Ezra Miller. We've covered, for the most part, the plot. Now the side characters. Well, the major side character is the Barry Allen of the universe that the original Barry Allen that we're familiar with ends up in. He's the other big one, who gets he's almost a dual protagonist. What's the term for
There are dual protagonists in this movie.
They basically are.
I forget what the actual word is, but
that's what this is.
Yeah.
And I get the contrast because again, we later find out in the movie this is a younger Barry Allen that the OG is dealing with, so it's a younger version of him. And you can kind of see like they actually it's a nice back and forth. I will give it that much. It's a nice back and forth. Are there really cringy moments and kind of things wear out very? It was funny seeing Ezra Miller like being annoyed with like the way his character has been portrayed in earlier movies, like that Barry Allen kind of yelling at his younger self going, God, you're so annoying, why are you like this? And then he kind of has that moment of self-realization going, oh, now I understand
what they mean. Yeah.
So
it's kind of funny because you know what? It's actually funny. I sorry for cutting you off.
No.
It's actually funny because it's good to see the contrast between this person that's not actually Ezra Miller versus the guy who actually acts like Ezra Miller in real life. That was kind of fun. That was actually kind of funny.
Yeah, so it was a nice little moment. Now here's the thing. Michael Keaton, for example, he's not in this movie a ton. He has maybe 15, 20 minutes of screen time. So most people, it was about right in the ballpark that a lot of people I was hearing. He was kind of important, but not really. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this movie would be any different without him.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I feel like obviously the only reason they had him be part of the film is because, you know, they needed the nostalgia to actually drive people in after the Ezra Miller kind of shit went down. And I'm pretty sure that's kind of why they kind of ruined the fact that he's actually in the movie.
Yeah, and they played it up with, you know, putting on music from the movie he was in and having
a bunch of lines from that movie, you know, because they want nostalgia.
And I thought it was okay. Like, I thought he was implemented okay overall. Would I have wished he was in a better movie? Sure.
Yes.
You know, and it is what it is. Like, this is the movie that Michael Keaton signed up for, and this is, you know, he got to read the script and he was okay with this. You know, it is what it is. I'm sure everybody in the audience would agree, like, they would have wished he was in a better movie. They would have done this properly. It would have been amazing. But this is what the situation gave us, and this is what we have to just kind of deal with.
Yeah.
That's okay. Kara. Look, let's just get this out the door. I understand people are going to immediately immediately look at her and go, "Come on, that's not Kara." And I'm like, I understand. I'm not disagreeing with you. But we just have to accept this for what it is, because unfortunately, this is the movie they gave us. But they still technically gave us a Supergirl that we all kind of were more familiar with, that we're all used to for like 5 seconds, if you know about that. Yeah. But the Kara that we got was okay. But here's the thing: she had how many speaking lines? I'll be brutally honest. How many times did she speak in this movie?
She was very barely in this movie. She wasn't She wasn't as big a part of the movie as I think some people may have thought.
Yeah.
How many times did she talk? Like, actually legitimately have lines instead of just yelling?
Yeah.
During fighting? Like, maybe like 6 or 7, maybe like 10 max. It was very minimal. Very minimal.
Remember when they first found her?
Yeah.
She didn't speak until they got out of their situation.
Yeah.
The first line was when they went back to Wayne Manor. That was her first speaking line. And she spoke for maybe a line or two. So yeah, it might be like 10, maybe 15 lines if you want to be generous.
Yeah.
But again, she wasn't a huge part of this movie, and she wasn't, like I said. I understand where people are coming from. I really do, and I would have preferred the one that we're all familiar with, you know.
Yeah.
But this is what it is.
I can see. I know why they probably wanted to go with like this version, just because it would be kind of weird seeing somebody that's supposed to be like a cousin of Clark with blonde hair when he's like
dark
black hair.
Yeah.
You know, kind of person. You know, that's his.
Yeah, they're trying to get the resemblance. They're aiming more
to go with the genetics. They were trying to just like, let's try to match genetics as much as possible, I guess.
And outside of Kara and Michael Keaton's Batman, there wasn't anything. Okay, there was two other characters that had some importance. Iris West, Barry's love interest, and Barry Allen's father. I think what was his name? I forget his father's name.
I also forget his father's
name.
Isn't it like...
I want to say Jonathan. I could be completely wrong. I'm trying to remember his father's name. Well, anyway, his father and Iris West are the other two. They are
Henry Allen.
Henry, there you go.
Yeah.
They are in this movie. Similar to Kara, they have very few speaking lines, and they're in this movie. But here's the one thing I will say: the strongest of the two kind of interactions between like Barry Allen and his father, and Barry Allen with Iris West. I like the dynamic between, like, right off the bat, the thing with his father was just better.
Yes. Just
from the way they interacted and just the weight and just the way they were, like, the effort and the performance, that was much better compared to like him and Iris. Like, I'll be just absolutely fair about that. That is just how I view it.
The moments with his father were clearly just well acted. And also, like, really emotional, so, like, it's easy to take from that. The stuff with Iris West just felt super...
tacked on.
Forced. It felt kind of forced, to be honest. Like, it was just out of nowhere, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Like, it was alright. It wasn't anything special.
And that's about it in terms of characters. There's not that many. Some people might ask, well, what about the other Justice League members? I'm going to be honest.
Well, Ben Affleck's Batman is kind of in the first, like...
the 30 minutes?
20 minutes, like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, you know, like he wasn't in it for that long.
He had a good moment. He had a good moment.
Wonder Woman was in it for like 2 minutes, literally.
Yeah, that led to one of the comedic moments that we weren't totally on board with.
And then Jason Momoa as Aquaman was also in this movie.
For like a minute, 2 minutes again.
Yeah, it was very short appearances from the other Justice League people. I'm actually I was actually shocked that Henry Cavill didn't have anything in this film, but
they probably scrubbed it.
They did reference Superman though.
Yeah, he had a very CGI shot scene of where he was in it, but it wasn't Henry. It was just pretty much just like a Superman they just put up on a screen for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, that's about it that we can all really cover. Those are just our thoughts, our honest thoughts about this movie without really going into the spoiler territory. Look, this movie, I told this to words. This movie is the ultimate mix of hot and cold I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah.
It can be really good at times and really shitty at times. There's no middle. Like, the middle bits you can maybe find are like just kind of mediocre at best, if you want to be absolutely fair and dig through this movie.
Like, I felt like I already said it, like, when the highs are high, it's really fucking great. Like, it's really great. But when the lows are low, it's the biggest piece of dog shit that I've ever seen. So it's such a mixed bag movie. Like, it's hard to like go into a movie like this and be like, like, do I like this or do I not like it? It's just one of those situations, and it kind of does. It makes it worse when you're trying to criticize it, I guess, or you're trying to do like something like this video that we're doing. It's kind of hard to do that, you know, because it's kind of like, what the fuck, you know, like it's so mixed that it's hard to actually think about whether or not it was good or bad. If that made any sense, that's the best way for me to put it.
like I said, this movie overall is mediocre.
Yeah.
Overall, it's mediocre. But it's one of those movies where, like, there were times, like, some of the moments in this movie made me go, this thing's like a 3 out of 10. And then other moments made me go, this is like a 6 or a 7, maybe an 8. Maybe at certain parts. And that's me being absolutely fucking generous, being a generous person.
I'll say this, the really great parts, if that had just been the whole movie, was just how good it was in those moments, it definitely would have been one of the better
DC movies.
DCEU movies that we've seen. Like, I would say it's up there with, I don't know, what's the best one? I guess the best one for me is Man of Steel or Suicide Squad, but
I still say it's Wonder Woman, the original one, the 2000.
I can see that.
I still say that's probably their better movie. I don't think even if this movie had only the good parts, it might be up there alongside it. I don't think it'd be better. But that'd be up for the DCEU fans to debate whether or not that's a valid kind of conversation. Now, we've been talking for 30 goddamn minutes, and we haven't even gotten to the spoilers. Holy crap. Ladies and gentlemen, so this was the non-spoiler section. We did our best to absolutely keep it spoiler minimum. If you want to see this movie and not be spoiled, leave. Like, absolutely click off the video. Because this next like, I don't know however long this is going to go on for, will be purely about spoilers. And let me be really honest, not all of it will be praise. I think most of it will be pretty much criticism, I think. Right, yeah. So, I thank the people who stuck around who wanted to watch the spoiler-free section. We appreciate you guys clicking on the video. You know, leave a like, comment, and let us know what you think afterwards, and come back to the spoiler section after you've seen the movie. Or for those of you who don't care, because I know that I'm that person, I don't care if there's a spoiler section, I'll still watch it. Yes. I didn't do it for this movie, but, you know, I'll still watch it. So, let's move on to the spoiler section. Where do you want to start?
Let's talk about the third Batman, I should say, that made his appearance in this movie.
Out of every possible Batman, George Clooney was the one I least expected to make a return to this movie. I would have believed Christian Bale was more likely to come back than George Clooney.
I definitely agree with you on that. I feel like, now obviously Val Kilmer can't, because he can't talk anymore, so
yeah,
I'm not shocked by that. But, or did Val Kilmer die actually? No, right?
No, I don't think he's passed away.
Well, anyway, like, I'm not shocked that he didn't show up, but I wasn't expecting. Okay, yeah, he didn't die. I just had to make sure. I just wasn't expecting to see George Clooney make an appearance. Like, it was just very odd how he showed up, and it was literally like it was the exact same universe, like Batman universe from, or I should say the exact same universe that Barry originally was from, just without Ben Affleck. Like, it was George Clooney driving the exact same car and everything. It was just kind of
strange.
It was just odd, right? Like, it was just out of nowhere.
But, and look, I remember the George Clooney Batman movies. Look, I think they were some of the worst. They were probably some of the worst.
His only Batman movie was horrible. He's only in one.
So, Bat nipples will forever stain his time as the Caped Crusader.
The Bat card, the Batman credit card.
But yeah,
it was definitely. So now I'll say this: I don't absolutely hate Batman and Robin, because it was obviously a callback to, like, the 60s Batman, which is actually my favorite Batman personally, but you know,
It was a little much.
it was yeah. And I was just shocked to see this man
Return.
just agree to I was just shocked that he would agree to actually be a part of this movie and be a part of like this whole like DCEU thing. Yeah, it was just weird. Like it leaves me kind of just wondering what the fuck they're gonna do still.
At this point, the DCEU is just a mess. Even with James Gunn's thing, I don't know what's going to be. I don't know what it is. I don't particularly care. I'm not as interested as I used to be in this thing, so I don't know. Nor do I kind of care to an extent. Now,
I feel like I'll say this. We thought that this movie was going to reset everything, and it really didn't reset anything as much as it was meant to. So that's just, I don't know. That's like my biggest issue. Maybe is that if I knew what James Gunn wanted to do because they kind of made this movie reset shit, then yeah, I would understand. But I don't understand anything still.
this, like I said, our expectation was this movie would reset the universe, and then James Gunn would have a clean slate.
Yeah.
This movie really did, and you can tell this movie was originally supposed to like play into like the next Aquaman or the next kind of that Zack Snyder-esque universe. It was supposed to play into that. I guess there was so much. They just had so much footage and so much already done that was based off of the previous work. There was no way to undo it, is my guess.
Yeah.
Now, that's enough about George Clooney and James Gunn. Time to move on to the... So the big thing with this movie is the time travel stuff. Now, let's replay this. Barry Allen first discovers the fact that he can go fast enough to travel back in time. He tells Bruce. Bruce tells him, and Barry thinks, oh, I can go back in time to save my parents, save your parents even, and undo a lot of horrible things. Bruce tells him this is a really bad idea because number one, you can destroy everything in the process. And we are who we are because of what's happened to us in the past. We have to learn to live with these things, and that's the ultimate lesson that Barry learns at the end of this movie.
Yeah, it's actually funny because Michael Keaton literally also has to teach him that. Michael Keaton's version of Bruce Wayne also tells him the exact same lesson. Basically.
Yeah. And so when Barry Allen goes back in time and he meets his younger self of a different timeline in general, because that's what it's the big reveal. When Barry Allen doesn't understand why there's no Wonder Woman, no Aquaman, no Cyborg, no Superman, no Batman, not his Bruce Wayne, but a different Bruce Wayne. Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne explains basically that the way the universe or the space-time continuum functions, it's like a bowl of spaghetti where there's lots of points of intersection, but but again, you can have completely different strands that go off in time. It's not like the branches that people maybe are familiar with from the Marvel universe, but it's more like here's one strand that'll go from like in a straight line, and another one that's like a squiggly line that'll go off in a completely different direction, and maybe with like one point of intersection in there. Right? It's so completely different that so many different events can change that there's almost no similarity between some of them. However, and this is what Michael Keaton's Batman explains, there are certain events that happen no matter what, and no matter what you do, you can never change them. I'm assuming Bruce's parents dying is one of those events because of how often we see that damn scene.
I don't know. I think. Well, that's one thing because one of the Flashpoint stories is that Bruce is the one that gets killed instead.
Yeah, right? That was in the recent New 52 movies.
So I don't know if I would say that that's one of those things that automatically I think it's basically like
a tragedy for the Wayne family. Maybe.
No matter what, in that version of the dimension, in that timeline or whatever, that dimension, whatever you want to call it, certain things are going to happen no matter what you do. So, like, if he went back in time, which he did do, to save Bruce from dying, he still is going to end up dying in a different way because it's meant to happen no matter what.
Yeah, which is what happens to Michael Keaton's Batman. You know, at the very end, there's a giant fight between the two Barry Allens, Kara, Michael Keaton versus Zod and the Kryptonians, because Zod and them make a return because, you know, that happened in the original Man of Steel. Well, actually, you know what? Let's start with the event that kicked him into meeting that new Barry Allen.
Oh, yeah.
He got it when he was in the middle of, he had just finished, if I remember correctly, he had just finished making the small adjustment that would allow his mother to survive, or to survive her death. That one little decision culminated in him being attacked while he was running in the Speed Force and going back to his present time. He gets attacked by a monster, a very fast monster, and knocks him out of that of the ball that he runs in when he's turning back time. He gets knocked out, and he's in front of his house, and this is where he runs into this timeline where his mother is alive.
Yes.
So from that point onwards, you know, they go through their, you know, the younger Barry Allen gets his powers, the older one loses his powers, and they have to kind of learn from each other to kind of control his powers and figure out a way to get back to the timeline and blah blah blah. The big moment was towards the very end, was when Barry Allen, the older one, gets his powers back from nearly killing himself.
Yeah, 3 times basically.
Yeah, it's a little less gruesome than the Flashpoint, what happened to Flash in the New 52, because it was something similar.
Yeah.
But he would look like, let's just say he looked like a walking corpse with the way his skin was like just burning in that one. So this was a little less gruesome.
It was very strange because, like, he got hit by the lightning bolt like at like its peak of being strong in the fucking sky. I'm actually kind of shocked that he survived that.
Well, he did.
Yes, he did.
Now, we get to the final battle. The culmination of the Flash movie. A battle between the two Flashes, Kara and Michael Keaton, versus Zod and his Kryptonian army. Now, it was a decent fight. CGI was still really bad at times. Had some decent moments. But the important thing was the time travel aspect, and kind of the growing frustration that the younger Barry Allen went through, and realizing no matter how much he went back in time, it didn't change the fact of, well, Kara still keeps on dying. Why does she keep on dying? I'm getting so close. I just need a little bit more time. And the Barry Allen that we know, it finally sinks in. The lesson that the two Bruces have told him was sinking in.
Yeah.
He came to the realization of, there's just some things I can't change. Even with all the speed I have, even with all the abilities I possess, I can't change their fate. If this, and he even flat out says, and there even is a point where Barry, the younger Barry, who's frustrated and you know, looking at his older counterpart going, why aren't you helping me? And all this other stuff. And Barry just tells him, this world is doomed. There's nothing we can do. Right? And that's such a big departure from Barry Allen earlier in the movie, who was so hell-bent on saving his mother and trying to right the wrongs of his own life, and
also was trying to save this universe that he had no actual attachments to.
And the other thing on top of not only trying to save his mother, but is also trying to save his father.
Yes.
So he was trying to save, in fact, both parents, not just one, but both parents from losing. And yet he came to the realization of, I can't. Now, then the monster comes out, and it's kind of what I suspected. I even said this towards like right before it happened, when the revelation is the monster that attacked Barry Allen was the younger version of him from that dying world where Superman didn't exist, and it was Kara. That Flash, or rather that
Barry
had like been covered in like, I don't even know what it was, like this.
I think it was the shit. You know how he went, well, whenever he kept going back in time, he kept getting like stabbed.
Yeah, it was
like,
more and more shards and all this stuff covering him.
And that basically, like, every time he kept going back, that's what he kept getting covered in, basically. It's like, if any of you have watched the WB's version, or CW's Flash, he's kind of like Savitar a little bit.
Yeah, he's a little bit of Savitar and a little bit of, what's the other guy?
Zoom.
There you go. He's a little bit of those two. I think he's a mixture of both.
Yeah, pretty much.
But closer to Savitar, because that was Savitar's whole thing, was trying to go back in time and undo the same mistake over and over and over and over again. And that's exactly what this younger Barry Allen was trying to do. Trying to undo his mistake over and over and over again. And the thing is, this Barry Allen was old, which told you he was doing this for a long time. So,
and it was just I think this was like a part where it was like kind of really, where it got really cool, but also weird. All the universes, basically, like every single like DC movie and TV universe basically like started fucking crashing into each other. Which, isn't that like the whole point of, isn't that like an event that happened?
Yeah, it's the event where multiple universes kind of squished together. It was, I think it was like a reset for the comics in general, but it was
like the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah,
that thing. Basically, that was what was happening. Was all the universes were fucking like combining, and we got Christopher Reeve's Superman and the old Supergirl, I forget the actress's name, but they did have
Adam West Batman was on there.
Adam West Batman, the original Superman, like the black and white, the ones that killed themselves, that they all killed themselves and went crazy, that started off the Superman curse.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage Superman, which never actually happened, but you know,
cool reference. It was a cool reference to that decision.
I will say this: the one thing I was a little upset about, they didn't use Brendan Routh's over Christopher Reeves, even though they're the same exact Superman. I personally have an issue with that, but that's, you know, some people might not give a shit too much, but I kind of care. He also played Superman in the CW's version of Flash, and or the Crisis of Infinite Earths, that was for the CW version, and he was playing the Christopher Reeve Superman, so I think they missed an opportunity to not use CGI de-aging, which that was like the real problem, I would say, with that sequence. Like, the de-aged versions of them looked really weird. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but
I will be fair and I will be honest. It was neat because I recognized, you know, the Christopher Reeves, the Adam West Batman, the Nicolas. I recognize those things, but those didn't matter to me as much. I will be honest. It was neat, but it wasn't anything like, oh, you know, I wish it was this or I wish it was this person. Yeah. Like, it didn't matter to me like that.
I can see that.
So, but at the end of the day, you know, the sequence happens and all these universes are crashing in together and they're being torn apart. And the oldest of the Flash, the evil one, basically, let's just call him the evil one for simplicity's sake, is going to kill the OG Barry because he's like, it's because of you. You're the one who, you know, stops her from coming, or stops me from bringing her back. and he tries and kills Barry. He tries to kill Barry, the OG Barry. However, the youngest Barry says, "No, I'm not. I don't want to turn into that. I don't want to, suffer like that. Nor do I want to pretend like I can change things when I'm seeing nothing I've done is changing anything, or rather, and other than that, and the OG Barry kind of told him, revealed to him, like, hey, be grateful that that you have mom and dad. He didn't tell him what happened, but he kind of they took on the older brother little brother relationship in this story, and it was you can almost see it as the younger brother is protecting the older brother.
Yeah, pretty much. And
he gets killed, and that leads to the evil Flash falling apart, because as you can't survive if you can't continue to exist if your younger version is killed. And so both Flashes kind of wash away with the sands of time. Literally, they wash away from sand. Like,
so they just said, hey, it looked cool in Infinity War. Why don't we copy that?
And so Barry kind of then goes back in time to undo his mistake from earlier. So, as we said, Barry Allen. So the whole reason why Barry's mother was killed is because somebody had broken into the house. However, Barry's father went out to go buy tomatoes because they had forgotten some in the morning, or when they went to the store earlier. So the father was sent out to go buy it. The father comes back to find his wife with stabbed, and Barry comes down as a child, looks at this, and that's the whole situation that Barry was trying to prevent from happening, which was, so he originally went back in time, put the tomato can in the cart, and so she never forgets, so she never sends his father out, and so if somebody does break in, Barry's father will be there instead of it just being his mother.
Yeah.
However, Barry at the very end of the movie goes back physically into the market himself. He puts on a little disguise or whatever, which I thought was a little dumb. I kind of don't like when time travel movies do that, but I like I said, it's just a little dumb to me. And so Barry kind of then uses he has this kind of emotional moment, because at the end of the day, since his mom doesn't recognize him, because obviously he's older, he's probably in his mid to late 20s, so she's obviously not going to recognize him. And he has this emotional moment with her because this is his this is goodbye. This is the last time he will ever do this. Hopefully.
Yeah.
And he takes the tomato can out and walks away, realizing that he all but effectively is letting his mother die. But he is at least at peace with knowing out there somewhere in the universe, his mother is still alive. In some timeline, his mother still lives. Now, it's bittersweet. The ending's kind of bittersweet where, sure, he loses his mother. However, the sweet part to that is his father. As we said, his father was in prison for being accused of, or being the most likely suspect to have killed his Barry's mother. Despite the fact of Barry from day one said, no, he didn't kill her. And they used footage in court that revealed that Barry's father's alibi being at the market buying the tomato can was proven to be true. Although okay, World, you know exactly where I'm going with this, because there was a part that didn't make any sense to me. I don't know if this was the universe throwing Barry Allen a bone, or this was something really dumb. I don't know. Because you remember, earlier in the movie, there was the same footage that they're looking at. Barry's father never looks up. Yet when they're in court, he looks up. So that was a little strange. So I went, okay, maybe it's just the Speed Force or the universe throwing him a bone.
So obviously, when he went to put the can back, you could kind of tell, like, oh shit, I could just put the can on the top.
There you go.
Fixed it that way instead.
Which
is still... It felt like out of character because of the lessons that you just learned in the fucking movie, but I don't know. I guess it was...
I'm guessing in his mind he rationalized it as it's a lesser... It's such a minute detail.
He's not getting... His father doesn't get killed, right? He just get... You know, he's going to be getting out of jail after already spending all the time in jail.
So in Barry's mind, he went...
Yeah, it's not really messing with anything.
Well, maybe that's why. Well, maybe that's why George Clooney's Batman's a thing.
And George Clooney's Batman is a thing, which just makes everything even more confusing. But
yeah, so I'm gonna go with the word's explanation, which was he probably put the tomato can at the top. And that's just how he decides to at least rectify the situation, but not completely screw himself over. I'm gonna guess that's what happened. Like I said, overall, for as much as this movie has its highs and its lows, it is what it is. Now, if you stick around this long, there's some bit of lore. Fuck this movie though, for this one goddamn reason. Ladies and gentlemen, we went to see this movie at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday. We're gonna see it.
This is the lore of this movie. That
we left. Well, this movie is about 2 hours long. We left at about...
It's actually like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
We left at like 1:40.
1:50.
Yeah, it was fucking late as shit at night.
We get in my car. We start driving. Late, folks. We spent 2 o'clock on the morning on the highway fixing a flat tire that I got. We put on my spare tire. We thought we're all good. We even inflated and go, okay, we're good to go. My fucking spare fucks me over as well.
This is part of the lore of this movie. This is what this movie is always going to be remembered for by us.
The flat tire.
The flat tire. The movie fell flat just like his fucking tire. Not only the first tire, but the second tire too. And it ruined a lot of it. It made me really realize this movie is the reason why this happened. And maybe
that was a sign. We should not have seen the movie.
We shouldn't have watched this movie. It's a sign that this movie was fucking just ass and was exactly what we may have thought it was going to end up like in the end.
Falling flat on its face at times.
Yep.
Well, folks, for as much as we'd like to continue rambling on, it has been almost an hour. I can imagine some of you probably went, holy crap, these guys have been talking for an hour? Well, this is where we're going to cut it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've stuck around for this long, I fucking applaud you. You're a goddamn champion.
You're a king or a queen if you're a woman.
So, if you liked the video, please leave a like. If you have some thoughts, comment down below. Let us know what you think, because this movie has a lot to unpack in the sense of whether or not you liked it is gonna really depend on whether or not you like the highs versus the lows.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Any last departing words?
No, I just want to thank everybody for listening. This episode is the first episode, technically, of this being a YouTube podcast, because YouTube has started podcasting playlists and stuff on YouTube. Or I just repeated myself, but just thanks for listening. We're gonna try to put more collaborative content out soon, I hope. I won't make any promises, but if you liked this, you're gonna like everything else that we do, because we're always the same way, no matter what.
Yep.
But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for listening to us ramble for like an hour.
Alrighty, folks, we're gonna call it here. I hope you guys have a nice day. And since you may not, we don't know when you'll see this video or this podcast, but it is on a Sunday when we're recording this, and it is Father's Day. So, if you have a father and you actually care about them, wish them a happy Father's Day. Appreciate what you have in your life. And, we'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.